case tonight has been baffling police for the past 3 months, simply because all their investigations have failed to reveal any possible motive. It's the murder of 47-year-old Derick Kiley at his flat in South London. By all accounts, he was a man with many friends and no enemies that anyone's been able to discover. Derick's girlfriend died last year, and our reconstruction begins at Hither Green Cemetery in southeast London. Derick was an immensely private person. He'd had a girlfriend for 2 years, but few of his friends knew about her until she died suddenly of a heart attack last November, aged only 37. His brother remembers Derick was devastated.
Derick was really broke up. I've never seen him like this. He couldn't speak, he didn't seem to know what day it was. He was definitely in shock. To see him upset like that, falling apart, you know, he really was a bad scene for me and for Derick, I think. We lost touch over the years, and we was just getting back together again, which would have been terrific. He was a good guy, Dale. I mean, he'd do things like, he'd stop the traffic to let an old lady across the road. He was a real old softy, really, although he didn't give that in his appearance.
Derick, or Del as he was known to his friends and family, had spent most of his life in South London. He'd lived in his flat in Harpenden Road in West Norwood for more than 10 years.
Yeah, tell me about it. Look, don't worry yourself. Yeah, well, look, we'll sort something out. Well, leave it to me. Hang on, mate, look, I've got to go. There's someone at the door. I'll bill you later, yeah? Ta-da.
Derick's friends knew they were always welcome to drop in for a chat.
Hello, Juice.
Hi, Del.
Come here, you.
He used to actually call his flat the Haven. It was where people could go with their problems. I've known Del for about 4 years. He was a very good friend to me. He was a very good friend to everybody. But although he did have a lot of friends, I felt that in the last 6 months he did get quite lonely, and he seemed quite desperate for people to be around him. In actual fact, he seemed quite frightened of being on his own.
While people confided in him, Derick kept his own problems very much to himself. But there's no doubt that something had been worrying him.
Before you threw that out?
Now I stuck it back together again. Painted the flowers on myself. It's all right, isn't it?
He was always mending things, always fixing things. I used to call him Mr. Fix-It.
Well, Rolly?
No.
He used to spend most of his time actually in his flat. He used to call it his control centre, because where he used to sit he had everything to hand. His remote control, his answering machine and his telephone.
Hello? Yeah, all right, mate. What's the mileage?
Derick's main love was cars, and he made a business of doing up and selling second-hand vehicles.
Yeah, we can do something, yeah. Consider it done.
He was a familiar sight in the street, working on various old cars outside his house.
Hi, Del.
Hello, girl, how are you?
All right, thanks. How are you?
Not too bad. Hey, there's something I've got to say to you. That little cat of yours.
He was such a good neighbour to us. We used to say that the best things about West Norwood were the fishmonger and Del.
It cost me a fortune in cat food as well.
I had a smash in my car and Del just completely took over. He just did everything.
Oh, it's really good since you fixed it.
Yeah, well, you should get onto the garage, you know. They ripped you off something rotten.
Yeah, I know. I keep meaning to ring them.
Yeah, we'll do it and let me know what they say.
He was a real mixture. I mean, he came across as really macho, and yet you'd go round there and he'd be doing watercolours of cottages and sailing ships, which came as a real surprise. You know, it was quite a contrast to his image. I mean, I think he thought he was quite hard, but I certainly never saw him being aggressive, and he was a real honey to us.
It's just after New Year, Sunday the 2nd of January. A neighbour remembers seeing a man coming from the direction of Derick's house that night and getting into a black 7 Series BMW. The witness describes the man as of Asian appearance, with a ponytail and in his mid-20s. The next afternoon, around 3:30, a local man remembers seeing Derick in the street.
I was walking up Oldswater Road towards Harpenden Road when I saw him talking to a man in a light blue Sierra. The man he was talking to had slick back hair and a ponytail. He was about in his mid-30s and had Mediterranean-type skin. I also remember that the car tax was out of date.
Later that same evening, Derick was at a pie stall in Crystal Palace Parade, a few miles from where he lived.
Tea and coffee? Yeah, please, Ron. Well, Del used to come up at night to see me, on odd occasion, have a chat.
Not Richard, mate.
All right, Del.
Nah, not really.
But on this occasion he come up, he looked down and out and didn't seem that he was in his right mind. Something was worrying him. He said to me, "I'll see you later," and then off he went. And that was the last time I see him.
That was the last time anyone is known to have seen Derick alive. Half an hour later, back in Harpenden Road, it's shortly after midnight. This woman lives a few doors away from Derick's flat.
I heard what I thought was a woman scream. I went to the window and looked out, but I couldn't see anything. So I decided, as it was a woman that I thought had screamed, I'd go outside and check it out. I went out, had a good look round. I couldn't see anything, so I decided I'd better go back home.
The shouting seemed to have come from the general direction of Derick's flat.
There's nobody available to speak to at the moment. If you'll leave your name and any message, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Del. I'm a bit worried about where you are. Give me a ring when you get back. Thanks, bye.
Over the next 3 days, Derick's friends became increasingly worried as he failed to return their calls. It was Thursday, January the 6th, when Derick's body was discovered in the flat. He died from multiple stab wounds.
I do honestly miss him so much. We had so much going then between us. We were very, very close, and I think he was going to come back into the family, and we could have been a family again. It would have been tremendous to have had Del back. And all I can say is I do really miss him very much.
Well, Mr. Younger, as I said at the beginning, you've been really struggling to find a motive here.
That's right. We don't know why anyone would want to kill Derick, Kiley, but I'm sure somebody does know, and that would greatly assist us in finding out who did kill Derick.
There were a few things stolen from his flat.
Yes, there was a black bag containing a large amount of cash and a wristwatch, quite an antique-type wristwatch, about 1935s. It's slightly more oblong than the one being shown, but in point of fact, it was very valuable.
So this watch could be really vital. It's interesting that we actually couldn't find one identical, but it's an oval version of this.
Yes.
There's no manufacturer's mark on it.
No, that's right. But if anyone's been offered that, certainly since the 6th of January, we'd certainly like to hear from them.
It could be very helpful. But you don't actually believe that robbery was the primary motive for Derick's murder?
No, Derick was a very cautious man, and he wouldn't let anyone into his flat unless he knew them, and certainly there was no forcible entry, so I'm convinced that he knew his attacker, whoever it was.
And whoever did attack him stabbed him many, many times, so there'd have been quite a lot of blood.
Yes, and I would appeal again to anyone who, on the early hours of Tuesday, the 4th of January, came home with blood-stained clothing. There must be someone out there to whom that would apply, and if someone could ring in with that information, we'd be most grateful.
The one person you know so far that you need to eliminate is the Asian man with the ponytail who was seen coming from the direction of Derick's flat on the 2nd of January in the evening.
Yes, we know he was a regular visitor. He may have nothing to do with the murder of Derick, Kiley, but we'd still like to trace this individual to eliminate him and find out what Derick was doing on the Sunday.
And we've got a description of him.
That's right. He's about 25 years of age, slim build, 6 foot tall, and the video fit is a good likeness to him.
Now, if anybody can help in this case, there's a reward as well, isn't there?
There is a very substantial reward offered by Crime Stoppers. Yes, that's right.
Well, if you can help with any information to take this investigation further, please do ring us. The number here in the studio is 0500 600 600, or you can contact Gypsy Hill Police Station direct, and that number is 071 326 1212. That's 071 326 1212.